Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. And today this is kind of a special, an exciting knife review. Now you guys may go, are you kidding, Kevin? Like, it's a Kizer Kesmec, it's been around, everyone knows about it, it didn't even make that big of a splash, and I'm aware of that. But I have to tell you guys, I've tried a lot of knives, and I've tried a lot of Kizers, and this one is my favorite. I was just blown away when I put my hands on this knife for the first time. Now, maybe it was because I had different expectations. I was expecting this to be a little smaller. And so when I opened it up and it was full 8 inches and it had a full 3.5-inch blade, by the way, 4.5 inches on the handle. When I put it in hand and I felt like I had tons of real estate, you know, all of those things just made such a good impression on me right out of the box that perhaps you know, when it defied my expectations like that, it just put me in such a good light with it. But even since that time, I have just found this to be such a great knife. By the way, since we're kind of talking about this already, the weight on this is 5 ounces and it carries really, really comfortably at only 4.5 inches. I just find myself reaching for this knife and carrying it so much. It's just great when I want a full-size knife, but I don't want something that is going to be onerous to carry. This is fantastic. And, you know, 5 ounces for an 8-ounce knife, maybe that's a little heavy, but I mean, you know, unless you have some kind of muscle wasting disease or something, 5 ounces is not a big deal. I don't even notice it if I'm wearing jeans or 511s or something like that. And if you're wearing gym shorts, you probably don't need a knife anyway, but yeah, I could see how it would be a little unruly in a pair of like thin gym shorts or something. Now, size and weight then, super impressive. And it doesn't stop there. You're going to notice, guys, as I work through this review, everything I talk about, I'm just going to be like, yep, it's good. And that's why I have to say, you know, this is one of the best Kizers out there, and certainly my favorite one. Okay, by the way, if you want one of these, if you get impressed as I am, I will put a link to the mass drop so you can go and request that. The drop is over, but you can request the drop. I'll also put an Amazon link and a White Mountain Knives link where you may be able to get your hands on one of these. Okay, so let's move on with the next thing I want to talk about. The next thing I love about this knife is the blade. So we've got 3.5 inches of cutting edge. Being a flipper, you don't have anything up here interfering with that, so you get all of the cutting edge. It's reasonably thick stock, so it's, you know, just around 1/8 of an inch, actually probably a little under that, which feels really confidence inspiring. As an EDC knife, or on an EDC knife, I like a little bit of a thicker blade stock. I really do, because I want to know that if I'm going to do something that could potentially break a blade, I've got enough steel here that I can have a fair bit of confidence. And this does that really well. The other cool thing about this is they've done this sort of reverse swedge. So normally you've seen a knife swedge, it goes the opposite direction normally. Well, this goes back this way, but there's two things about this. Number one, they haven't taken away so much material that it's uncomfortable to put my thumb here. Number one. Number two, they've done it in such a way that I end up with lots of material out at the tip, so giving me some extra strength. And finally, it's nice and thin behind the edge, so it still slices like crazy. And so this blade, S35VN steel satin finish, huge win. It really just is a fantastic blade if you want your knife to cut stuff. And I generally think most people want that. So, you know, just super impressed by this blade. Not only just in the way it looks, I like the design, but when you go and start using this knife, I found it to really outperform a lot of similarly size, shape, you know, designed blades. It's a fantastic blade. Moving on to the action. Again, the action is really nice. The flipper tab is accessible. The detent is basically exactly how you'd want it. They've got a nice cutout here so that the lock bar is easily accessible. Very solid lockup, no play in any direction. The only complaint I have about this pivot is one thing, and that is the screw that they've used with that pinwheel design. Honestly, on this knife, guys, I actually can give it a pass. And the reason I feel that way is the way this the way this looks, the details, it just, because of the little bit of extra stuff that's going on, it doesn't stand out as much. Okay, so on the typical Kizer, where it's just boom, a plain gray-sided slab of titanium, yeah, this pinwheel really stands out. But with the flame anodizing on here, that looks really, really cool, by the way, it distracts my eye from the pinwheel. So even the pinwheel pivot is not as bad on this knife as it is on some of the Kizers, where it really, really stands out as like the only design feature that they've got going on. Okay, so in terms of actual use, the action on this is essentially perfect, right? The detent is exactly what you want it to be. It's as smooth as you want it to be. It's just really, really well done. Okay, so as I said, everything is, right, every single thing I look at is really nice. Next thing is going to be this handle. So we've got a titanium frame lock here. We've got these nice little cutouts, which I do really, really like. Some contouring here, which makes it very comfortable in hand. And of course, that flame anodization, which I think looks fantastic. All right, now the only issue I can really bring up here with the handle is the clip does seem to take away from it. Like, I find this to be, and you guys can disagree with me, let me know in the comments, but I find this to be a very attractive handle. I love the flame anodization. Even in slab-sided titanium, I think this would be pretty attractive, but the clip does not kind of carry over the I don't know, the statement that this makes. It doesn't seem to fit the knife all that well. And that's really my only complaint on the construction here, right? It feels amazing in hand. This is a really, really comfortable knife. Everything works the way you'd want it to. I love the fact that it's nice and open with those standoffs. Of course, you could have some milling internally to lighten it up a little, but maybe, you know, if they do a Kizer Kesmec 2.0 or something, they can do that. But, you know, in terms of handle construction and ergonomics, again, it's a huge win. Like, I feel like a broken record here, but that's because, you know, when I first saw this knife, as I say, when I ordered this knife, I wasn't sure what I was getting, but the price was so good that I went ahead and got it. Now, when I got it in hand and started using it, first when I got it in hand, I was like, hey, pretty good. What's it going to be like in use? And so when I actually started cutting some stuff with it, I was like, wow, they have nailed this blade grind. They have nailed the ergonomics. Those things really, really put me over the top. Okay, so there you go. That kind of runs through all of the features. Let me grab some comparisons. And I think at this point, you probably have a pretty good idea what my overall thoughts are. So let me first grab, here's a steel wheel piercer. And there's a reason I brought this in. So steel wheel piercer, great knife, D2 steel, very positively reviewed. I love this design. I love the ergonomics. The blade is a little shorter than I would like to see, but really nice knife. $110 well spent, okay? However, the action is not as good. The blade steel is not as good. The overall, you know, amount of titanium and the overall construction is not quite as good as the Kizer. And the Kizer costs like either the same amount or a few dollars more, right? You're getting quite a big upgrade for about the same price. And you know, so that's really cool to me. Now, we've already done a full video comparing these two, and you guys know my thoughts, and no one agreed with me, okay? Now, and I get from a look standpoint, visually, okay, I will not argue with you. The Crux is a beautiful, beautiful knife. It absolutely is, and I will not argue that whatsoever. However, if I gave you both of these knives and had you shut your eyes and, you know, just hold on to them and maybe do some cutting, although I'd have to keep your fingers out of there since you have a blindfold on, I dare say that most of you watching would side with me and say the Kesmec is the knife you like better in use. And that, I think, says a lot, because I think this is one of the nicest knives on the market today. It's just fantastic. And again, the value is very close. I think this guy goes for like 125. And again, I think this was like 115 or 110 or 120, something right in there. All right, one last comparison. And I will say there are ways that you could upgrade this. Okay, here is what is essentially my favorite titanium frame lock. This is, of course, the Riot Torrent, and it is a fantastic knife. Now, there are some nicer details here. There is a little more attention to detail. The action is just slightly nicer, and of course the blade steel is M390. But the fact that I would even put these two on screen together ought to tell you what I think of the Kesmec. I really, really find it to be that good. Yes, I do. By the way, in case I didn't mention it, there is about 3.5 inches of grip area here, maybe almost 3 5/8. Okay, so there we go, guys. That's my overall take on the Kizer Kesmec. I am absolutely a fan. I think Kizer has done something really, really special here, and I hope they come out with some more options. You know, if they came out with different anodizations, that would be cool. Now, I will say this. If Kizer, if you're watching this, if you're going to do like a Kesmec 2.0, a little internal milling would be great. And a redesigned clip would be really, really helpful. Okay, so otherwise, this is fantastic. And honestly, even if you don't do that stuff, this is still a great knife, and I absolutely enjoy it. I carry it and find myself reaching for it even when, you know, if you consider, you know, you guys have been around for a while, if you consider some of the knives I have available, the fact that this ends up in my pocket an awful lot should tell you just how much I appreciate this knife. So there you go, guys. This is a huge recommend. I love this knife. I just think it's one of the nicest things Kizer has done. It's well balanced, it's ergonomic, fantastic performance out of every aspect, whether it be the action or the cutting performance or the feel in hand. It just wins all the way across the board. So go ahead, check out those links below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.